Howdy, Comp Health Locum Tenens. Mark Robbins here. I work with our surgery teams and can't wait to see all of you back in the office when this is all said and done. I am dressed the way that I am tonight because one of the things that I like to do as a hobby is run on mountain trails. I like to run as far and as long as I can. And so earlier tonight, I went out on a run with the idea of filming this on the trail. I had take after take after take, and it was awesome. And I was going to come home and compile it and send it to Lisa and Jeff and just, wait for the praise to come in. It didn't work out that way. When you run on trails, you breathe really hard, and that is not an attractive sound. And I was not going to subject any of you to my heavy breathing. There was also a lot of wind in the mic, and it didn't work. Translate to good message, and in short, I had this awesome vision of how I wanted things to go, and then life happened, and here's really how they went. And so I had to adapt and find a solution and really work through that process, which is a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So the main goal of our message is for us to have some takeaways and tips and tricks on how to be mentally tough and mentally focused when things get really hard. And I think that's timely for the situation we're in right now. I see each and every one of us battling day in and day out, and I know the mental mental investment that each one of us is making, and I know that sometimes that mental can wear down. There's actually a cycle that exists, and I've seen that cycle many times in my life, but it starts with stress, and that stress will lead to doubt. And then doubt leads to fear, and then fear leads to fear leads to panic, and then panic leads to despair, and then despair leads to failure, or that's that place where you want to quit or throw in the towel or ugly cry. You typically don't just get here. You typically have to go through that cycle, and that is not a fun cycle to be on. And so hopefully some of the things that we talk about will help you break that cycle, or if you identify that you're on it, find a way out. So the first thing that I would suggest, so number one is create or have a why you come to work every day. So for me, it is my wife and kids, and I want to provide a life for them that is comfortable and something that they're proud of. Mine is also twofold. The other is it's important for me to deliver for the people on my team, our customers, for each one of you. And so every day when I wake up, I ask myself, did I get out of bed because my alarm clock went off today, or did I get out of bed to go deliver that why? And it's okay if you don't have one. I would just encourage you to create one, because knowing that is going to help you get to a really good place when things get hard. Meaning when fall off happens, and when a client or provider isn't progressing the way that you want to, or an HP app is stuck, or a license isn't coming through the way you wanted it to, or you're not relating to the people you work with. Those are really hard and really difficult times. But if you can come back and remember why you came to work that day, it's going to give you the mental fortitude to kind of break through that wall. So rule number one is have a why that you can come back to when things get tricky. The next is to create micro wins. So when I go on my long runs, they're often broken up by aid stations. And when I get to come into an aid station, it is awesome. I get food, I get water, I get other goodies to drink. There's often volunteers there who are uplifting me. At some of them, I get to see my family. But in short, these aid stations create a fulfilling effect that allows me to get back on the trail and ultimately moving towards the finish line. So I've taken that concept of aid stations and tried to implement it into my work. And so what that might look like is, all right, I'm blitzing today, but after my next 20 calls, I'm going to go grab my favorite drink. Or I'm going to plan a weekend getaway to Moab once this is all said and done. But it's going to give me something to look forward to. Just something to put on the horizon of good things to come. Because again, when things get really hard, you can think, at least I can go get my Diet Coke after these 20 calls. Or when it's not going your way, you can just rely on that good thing that's out there on the horizon. So create some micro wins. I do mine daily. When I come into work each day, I'll write down 3 or 4 things that if I could do those today, that would make for a really good day. Speaking of which. All right. The next one is there is a solution to every problem. When you are in the thick of getting beat up and in that horrible spot that just doesn't feel good, it is hard to see that a solution exists, but it does. And I've also learned here that it is important to rely on the infrastructure that Comp Health has to get to see some of those solutions. So partnering with your leaders or senior reps or peers on your teams or friends, I think it is really helpful to go to them and say, here's the problem I'm encountered right now. What is a potential solution and what's a way out? That solution might not always be what you want it to be. It might look like you recording a message in your office versus on this beautiful hill in front of the most beautiful sunset I've seen in like the last 6 weeks, but it's a solution nonetheless. So know that there is a solution to every problem. The next thing is slips happen. Life is real. You're not going to be perfect. You shouldn't expect yourself to be perfect. It's unrealistic. It's unattainable. But when you slip, it's also important to get back on track. So be gentle with yourself, but get back on track. So slips happen. I once talked to a leader and I said, hey, just so you know, I'm going to have a bad week. And he said, first of all, I think he laughed at me. But second of all, he said, okay, you've got to learn how to turn a bad week into a bad day, and a bad day into a bad afternoon, and then a bad afternoon into a bad moment. And I was really grateful for that coaching. Bad doesn't have to just exist. You can cycle it out as quick as you can. And you'll do that through the next thing that I want to talk about, which is gratitude. So being grateful. I have learned that gratitude and doubt and fear and failure can't coexist in the same place at the same time. So I have tried to be doubtfully grateful, and I just can't do it. So what that looks like for me is if I find myself anywhere on that fear cycle or failure cycle, I will take a minute and step back and think of some of the things that I'm grateful for. Science has shown that gratitude literally releases serotonin and dopamine and some of those chemicals that uplift you and help you. So what that looks like for me is I would say the more specific you can get, the better it is. So instead of saying, oh, I'm grateful for my house, I really take time to think, what is it about my house I'm grateful for? Right now, I'm grateful for my back deck. I can go sit back there and have some peace and quiet and listen to the birds chirp and watch the sunset. Even though it's a little cold, I'm grateful for my windbreaker because that allows me to do that. So essentially what happens is you start to go down this path of looking for things that you're grateful for rather than things that are irritating you, and it will naturally bring you up. So in recapitulation, there is a failure cycle. It just exists. You can break it by having a why and remembering why. So did you come to work today because your alarm clock went off, or did you come to work because you have a greater purpose? And cleave onto that greater purpose when things get hard. Create some micro wins. This is just a fun way to break up the day and give yourself something to look forward to. They do not have to be big. They can be small, and typically those small ones are the most meaningful. There is a solution to every problem. If you are unable to see it, get with somebody who can help you see it, but solution mindset is critical in being mentally tough and staying mentally focused. Slips happen, that's okay, get back on track. It exists. And the reason I wanted to just bring up slips again is because what I've seen is sometimes people will slip and then they'll just throw in the towel. It's okay, slips are part of it. Just get back up, get back on track. And then be grateful. So those 5 things will help you break the failure cycle, help you be mentally tough, help you stay mentally focused, and help you book all of the days. One last thing I would say is you are more capable than you know. I'm more capable than I know I am. We can do harder things than we think we can, and we're already doing hard things really, really well. One of the things that I love about working at Comp Health is that we interview for toughness. If you're in the building, if you're watching this video, you are tough. And sometimes just remembering that is critical. So we got this, Comp Health. Let's go out and give our best effort. Let's be mentally tough and mentally focused and go deliver for our customers.